The Lincoln Project salutes Vice President Donald Trump. As Vice President, Trump will finally have the time to do the things that make him happiest. We at the Lincoln Project are confident that Donald Trump understands his position. Elon is smarter, wealthier, more charismatic, has a far superior and more successful social media platform and company. Talk about old movies, playing on his phone, admiring the assets of other men. Meanwhile, President Musk can get down to the business of running the country.
Have you ever wondered what it would take to make Trump completely lose his cool? The answer, perfectly timed ad calling him Diaper Don and comparing him to Putin. When the Lincoln Project aired their brutal takedown near Mar-a-Lago, they weren't just trying to annoy Trump, they were executing a strategic psychological attack. And it worked better than anyone expected. Not only did Trump launch into an all-caps 3 a.m. meltdown, but sources claim Melania was so enraged she's now sleeping in a separate bedroom. Let's count down the 5 brutal moments from this ad that broke both Trump's composure and possibly his marriage. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Ever wonder who knows how to push Trump's buttons better than anyone? The answer might surprise you. It's the people who once helped him win. The Lincoln Project isn't your average anti-Trump group throwing random criticisms at the wall. These folks are former Republican strategists and operatives.
Trump's got it wrong. So does Elon Musk. We're not quitting. Americans from every walk of life, Democrats, Republicans, independents, wrong to cut deals with corrupt politicians, wrong to pardon terrorists, wrong to get in bed with Putin, wrong for an American president to call himself a king. They all know it's wrong to cut veterans' health care, wrong to cut FAA air traffic controllers, wrong to fire FBI agents for doing their jobs. We're in this fight till the end, till Trump's gone and America is free again. And nothing's going to change that.
Who spent decades helping Republicans win elections. Now they've flipped the script and turned their insider knowledge against the orange turd himself. Think about it. People like Steve Schmidt and Rick Wilson know Trump's weaknesses better than anyone. They've been in those strategy rooms. They understand how his mind works, and they use that knowledge to craft what might be the perfect psychological trap. It's like knowing exactly which wire to cut on a bomb. Except in this case, the bomb is Trump's ego. These ex-Republican insiders didn't just make any old political ad. They engineered a precision-guided missile aimed directly at Trump's most tender emotional spots. The genius part? They never intended this ad for regular voters. Nope. They strategically aired it in just 2 places, Washington, D.C. and near Mar-a-Lago. This wasn't about changing minds. It was about making sure one specific mind saw it. The Lincoln Project founders knew exactly what would drive Trump up the wall. They understand his desperate need to be seen as a strong, successful winner. So what did they do? They compared him to a useful fool, a puppet of Vladimir Putin, without even explicitly saying it. That comparison to Putin while simultaneously mocking him as Diaper Don.
America on the march. President Trump announced this month that the Gulf of Mexico is going to become the Gulf of America. Can Jimmy have some freedom fries with that?
Who controls the computer systems that decide if you get your tax refund, or disaster relief, or Medicare benefits? Elon Musk.
Republicans have turned in their game uniforms and become cheerleaders.
About a big, beautiful canal instead.
And we're taking it back.
Cheer for Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
We got a new sheriff in town.
Was specifically designed to hit Trump where it hurts most, his manhood and his supposed strength. But they didn't stop there. The ad featured a brutal highlight reel of humiliation, showcasing Trump's most embarrassing moments. It spotlighted his criminal convictions and legal troubles, topics guaranteed to make him defensive. These former insiders know Trump can't stand being portrayed as a loser or criminal. It's like poking a bear if the bear wore a bad toupee and had tiny hands. The timing shows just how calculated this attack was. They aired it late at night when Trump is known to be alone, scrolling through TV channels with no staff around to calm him down or take away his phone. It's the political equivalent of setting a trap and knowing exactly when your target will walk into it. What makes this psychological warfare so effective is that it's coming from people who understand the depths of Trump's insecurities. They know he's obsessed with his image, they know he can't handle criticism, and they know he's physically incapable of not responding when attacked. It's like they built a Trump rage machine and pressed the on button. The ad was designed as an assault on Trump's carefully constructed persona. Every aspect, from the content to the timing to the placement, was engineered to provoke an emotional meltdown. And boy, did it work! The fact that Trump responded so viscerally proved the Lincoln Project hit their target dead center. They wanted to make him react, and he did exactly that.
Watching the power grab and illegality going on in Washington, it's easy to feel helpless, like there's nothing you can do.
Elon Musk, hailed for changing the way we drive, celebrated for sending rockets toward the stars.
The penalties for violation are civil and criminal. Elon Musk and his tech bros are not above the law, and a corrupt president has no ability to pardon state crimes.
Is using his power to do something unthinkable. He's slashing funding for life-saving medicine and science, shutting down cancer and Alzheimer's research, solutions for childhood diseases,
revealing his true emotional state. This wasn't just political criticism, it was emotional sabotage by people who knew exactly which nerves to strike. They understood that beneath Trump's tough guy act lies a fragile ego that can't handle being mocked. By highlighting his failures and humiliations, they struck at the core of how Trump sees himself. Turns out you can tell a lot about a man by what he does at 3 o'clock in the morning. When the Lincoln Project's psychological trap sprung shut, Trump's carefully maintained tough guy facade crumbled faster than a Trump casino in Atlantic City, revealing something his handlers never wanted the public to see. That's right, folks. The man who constantly brags about being strong and stable was frantically thumb-typing all-caps screeds on Truth Social while normal people were counting sheep. Not exactly the behavior of someone who wasn't bothered, right? His middle-of-the-night meltdown spoke volumes about how deeply the ad cut through his armor and struck at his core insecurities. What makes this tantrum particularly revealing isn't just its timing, but its execution. Trump's 3 a.m. posts weren't carefully crafted messages from a confident leader. They were a full-blown Category 5 hurricane of insecurity and rage, complete with misspellings that would make a spell checker burst into tears. When someone starts typing like they're smashing a keyboard with their forehead at 3 in the morning, you know they're not exactly in a calm presidential state of mind. The spelling mistakes weren't just embarrassing, they were a window into his emotional state. Picture grumpy Trumpy alone with his phone, so upset he couldn't even be bothered to check if his words made sense before hitting post. These weren't the actions of a man in control. They were the digital equivalent of a temper tantrum, complete with virtual foot stomping and toy throwing. Most telling was how Trump's posts revealed classic narcissistic defense mechanisms in action. He loudly proclaimed how totally not bothered he was by the ad.
You know, the White House is more than just a building. It's more than 18 acres of land in Washington, D.C.
It's the place where Americans look for leadership when the night is at its darkest and when the dawn breaks brightest.
It's a commitment to the Republic and to our sacred Constitution.
Unemployment is 98% under Joe Biden.
Best debate prep since Lincoln.
And a loaf of gasoline is $84 a pound.
What about schools, sir?
Let them eat bootstraps, okay?
You know, the same ad he was rage posting about in the middle of the night. It's like saying, "I'm not angry," while punching a wall. The harder he tried to convince everyone he didn't care, the more obvious it became that the Lincoln Project had hit every single nerve they were aiming for. Political analysts quickly spotted the significance of this meltdown. The contrast between Trump's macho public persona and his 3 a.m. digital cry fest couldn't have been starker. For years, Trump has marketed himself as the ultimate tough guy, a strong man who never backs down. But his reaction revealed something quite different. A deeply insecure man who falls apart when criticized by people who once supported him. Even loyal MAGA supporters began questioning their devotion after this display. One Republican insider compared Trump to a soggy paper straw in a McDonald's milkshake. Not exactly the iron-fisted strongman image he tries to project. When your own team starts describing you using wet paper products as metaphors, you might have an image problem. By responding so emotionally, Trump essentially validated the Lincoln Project's entire strategy. They claimed he was thin-skinned and easily triggered, and he responded by being thin-skinned and easily triggered. It's like trying to prove you're not afraid of clowns by screaming and running away every time you see one. Not exactly convincing, Donnie. The real genius of the Lincoln Project's plan became clear in the aftermath. They didn't need a massive ad buy to reach millions of voters. They just needed Trump himself to have a public meltdown, which would generate far more attention than their original ad ever could. Trump essentially became their unwitting marketing department, ensuring everyone heard about the very ad he was so upset about. What's particularly ironic is that if Trump had simply ignored the ad, few people would have noticed it. Instead, his 3 a.m. tantrum turned it into national news, spreading the Lincoln Project's message far wider than their budget could have. Talk about an own goal. It's almost like watching someone try to put out a fire with gasoline while wondering why the flames keep getting bigger. The Lincoln Project didn't just pour gasoline on Trump's fire. They apparently dropped a nuclear bomb on his marriage. While Donald was busy making the ad go viral with his late-night tantrum, behind Mar-a-Lago's gold-plated doors, a second explosion was taking place. Who would have thought that after weathering porn star scandals and grab-em tapes with barely a facial twitch, Melania Trump would finally crack her perfectly maintained facade over a political ad? According to insiders close to the Trump compound, the normally ice-cold former First Lady transformed into what they described as a Slovenian volcano. Quite the image for a woman who spent years perfecting the art of emotional neutrality in public. The timing couldn't possibly have been worse for Melania, who sources say was actively trying to rebrand herself and create some distance from the never-ending Trump circus. Just as she was constructing her post-White House identity, boom, the Lincoln Project ad dropped and yanked her right back into the center of Donald's drama. The contrast between Melania's carefully cultivated public image and her reported private meltdown couldn't be more stark. This is a woman who stood stone-faced through impeachments, scandal after scandal, and that infamous "I really don't care, do you?" jacket moment. But apparently, everyone has their breaking point. For Melania, it seems the Lincoln Project finally found hers with their perfectly targeted attack on her husband's ego. Sources claim her rage wasn't just contained to harsh words. Reports suggest she was literally throwing Trump's belongings out of their shared living space in a fit of anger. I'm picturing MAGA hats and self-tanner bottles flying through the palatial halls of Mar-a-Lago while staff ducked for cover. Not exactly the dignified image of the former First Lady we're used to seeing on magazine covers. The fallout has reportedly been significant and visible. Multiple staff members have confirmed that Donald and Melania are now sleeping in separate bedrooms at Mar-a-Lago, so far apart that they apparently need golf carts to visit each other. Nothing says solid marriage like needing motorized transportation to see your spouse in the same residence. This physical separation represents a major crack in the united front they've tried so hard to maintain for years. Former Trump aide Anthony Scaramucci, who admittedly has his own axe to grind with the former president, offered his own blunt assessment of Melania's feelings. According to the Mooch, she hates Donald Trump. In fact, Scaramucci uses Melania as his benchmark for measuring Trump hatred, claiming he's only met one person who hates Trump more than she does, General Milley. Of course, considering Scaramucci's own tumultuous history with Trump, his comments should probably come with a grain of salt the size of Trump's ego. What's particularly interesting is how Melania's reported reaction reveals something many have long suspected, that the stoic exterior she's maintained through countless scandals might be exactly that, an exterior. For years, late-night comedians and political commentators have joked about Melania being trapped or secretly despising her husband. While those jokes were often in poor taste, these recent reports suggest there might be some truth behind the speculation. The Lincoln Project's psychological warfare didn't just target Donald Trump, it hit his entire household. One ad managed to not only send the former president into a tailspin, but potentially damage his marriage in the process. It turns out the people who know how to hurt Trump the most are those who once worked closest to him. They knew exactly which buttons to push, and they pushed them with precision. So what's the real takeaway from this nuclear strike on Trump's ego? The Lincoln Project's masterminds didn't just stumble onto his weaknesses, they engineered the perfect psychological trap by targeting his carefully built tough guy image. These former Republican insiders knew exactly which buttons to push, and boy did they push them effectively. What makes this attack so powerful isn't just the reaction it triggered, but how it exposed the paper-thin facade Trump maintains. When criticized generically, Trump brushes it off. But when his vulnerabilities are precisely targeted by people who understand his psychology, we see what's really underneath, a fragile ego desperately protecting itself from perceived attacks.